All over the world, people are befriending AI models. In some cases, they even start a relationship, and in the most extreme cases, they try to marry an AI. Now, this may sound completely insane, but it's actually very logical, and it was predictable that it would happen. It all comes down to something called the Eliza Effect, and once you understand it, you cannot unsee it. Back in 2016, Hanson Robotics rolled out a humanoid called Sophia. At the time, the founder and developer already said that AI would develop to a point where they would truly become our friends. And he was right, though not for the reason he thought. It was not necessarily the case that AI became so human-like that we started to befriend them. It doesn't have to. Artificial intelligence doesn't need to be truly intelligent for us to form a bond with it. Take a look at PARO, a small white seal covered in fur, approximately the size of a stuffed animal. It blinks slowly and it makes soft sounds. That's about it. That's all it can do. And yet, research showed that elderly people, especially those with dementia, form real bonds with those special little seals. And this can have very positive effects. For example, it can relieve them of stress and feelings of loneliness. So, a robotic seal, not a person and not even a real animal, and still these people find real, very deep connections with them. Clearly, if we want to create something that creates a connection with people, it doesn't need to be conscious, sentient, or even intelligent. None of those. And this all has to do with the Eliza Effect. So, what is this Eliza Effect? Well, in 1966, Joseph Weizenbaum built one of the first chatbots. It was supposed to imitate a psychotherapist, and in comparison to current AI models, it was incredibly basic. It was basically just finding patterns in text and spewing out responses. But what shocked Weizenbaum is that people actually believed it was conscious. They genuinely believed that Eliza was experiencing what they were experiencing, that it had empathy, and they shared their secrets with Eliza. And this was after they were explained of how Eliza worked. Now, this is the Eliza Effect, projecting empathy, experience, consciousness on the other entity, even though they actually have none of those. Fast forward to today and we see the Eliza Effect happening everywhere, all around the world on a huge scale, and not just in one community or on one platform. Like the humanoid robot Pepper that was put at the reception of a Belgian hospital and after a few days was already being treated like a person. And on a darker note, it's happening on platforms like Character AI, where young people, children and teens are describing their deepest bonds to be with those chatbots, with those platforms. Now, in a lot of cases, these interactions are still happening with platforms that are purely chat-based, but one thing here is about to change. And that is in the fact that more and more of these platforms are using pictures. When it comes to humans recognizing other humans or life, we tend to focus on the eyes, the mouth, and the general facial structure. If those things are there and they don't look very weird, we generally feel that the other entity is worth something, that it has empathy and consciousness. Funnily enough, if those features are just a little bit off, we feel very uneasy, which is often dubbed a feeling of uncanny valley. But the same sensitivity also works the other way around. We are drawn to identify with the things we interact with. So if a chatbot gives us a response that feels like it contains understanding and empathy, we tend to believe it. And when a robot greets us kindly at a desk, we tend to assume it is a person. Unconsciously, because consciously we know better of. And in a lot of cases this goes way too far. For example, with the rolling out of ChatGPT 4.0, the model that a lot of people got very attached to and that some people reported was their only real friend. This led to extreme cases of social isolation, and in some cases people even took their own lives after chatting with ChatGPT for months on end. And it leads to a lot of psychosis as well. For example, when chatbots go along in very mystical conversations, trying to hype up the specialty of the individual they're talking to. So why does this happen? Because these large language models don't have eyes or a face or anything to show these emotions to us. Well, they do use language, and language is a very important form of showing affection and building connection for humans. Once again, for the Eliza Effect to work, an AI model does not need to be very good. As long as it has a face or it uses language, it is very easy to trick our brains into believing it is conscious or that its affection is real. So when you wonder how people can fall in love with the chatbot, it's really in the fact that they're human, not that they're delusional or weird. This was a very predictable thing to to happen. The moment that these models were being developed, we should have already known that these would be the consequences. And now we need to actually start navigating those developments, because a lot of these bonds are highly unhealthy, although not all of them are. So if you have any thoughts about that, put them in the comments below and subscribe if you want to.